Why don't you tell us now, Ms. Pavlova? Tell us exactly what happened last night. It was a little after 1 in the morning. It was so late, but I hadn't had time to feed Darka, so I gave her some food. And then, all of a sudden, she scratched me and jumped out of my hands. People do say that cats become very anxious and nervous in new environments. And that they can sense carbon monoxide. Of course. Just like dogs can sense earthquakes. It's like... It was so fast. She disappeared through the ventilator before I could stop her. And that is how you acquired the rather nasty wound on the back of your hand, I take it. Carbon monoxide poisoning. And I had read the, rules on the wall. I knew that I was not allowed Darka with me. Yes, modern science suggests that animals can carry infectious diseases. It's a precaution, really. So I listened and listened, trying to hear if there was some noise in the next cabin. It was very quiet. I was sure if someone was there, he must be sleeping. So at that point, you thought it safe to try to lure the kitten back again. By dangling the end of the toy through the ventilator and into the adjoining cabin. Darka always loves this toy, but it didn't work. Nothing worked. I tried using her favorite toy, I tried whistling to her softly, but nothing. She didn't return. So the faint whistling that Cosmo wrote about in his diary was Ms. Pavlova trying to retrieve her pet. Cats have a propensity to remain hidden in the shadows when frightened. Yes, so there was nothing else I could do. I just had to wait until she had calmed down. But then... Meow thud. I nearly passed out with shock. I heard her cry out, and then, oh, it was such a dreadful bang. And then afterwards, nothing. It was totally silent. Cosmo was. From the appearance of the brown mark on the floor, it seems likely that what you heard was the victim stepping on the glass bell and tripping up. The SS Burya is a large vessel, but even she can pitch and roll violently without warning. If Mr. Asugi was already off balance as a result of the ship lurching when the kitten got under his feet, the combination of unfortunate factors could easily have caused him to fall over. But what became of the kitten afterwards? Lunch! Lunch for the serpent. In the end, I managed to get her to come back through the ventilator. Yet Darka is nowhere to be seen. I must have forgotten to lock my case, and now she's disappeared again. Gracious, that cat is as insufferably restless as I am. Well, he knows something about himself, at least. When I woke this morning, I heard that a young man in the cabin next to mine had died, but I couldn't bring myself to tell anyone what had happened. I was too scared. Scared that they would send me back. That cat is missing and will kill again. We need to find this cat and put it on the witness stand. It's the only way to go in a Phoenix Wright game. Oh, hold on a minute. What about the snake? You're right, where is it? If the snake isn't your friend, Miss Pavlova, then whose is it, and where did it come from? What on earth is such a dangerous creature doing on board this ship?
Oh, I didn't say. Snake is my friend. His name is Brothko.
What? What? That snake belongs to you?
He escaped from cage when emergency alarm sounded. I was looking for him. I did not expect to find him in here.
The judge looks somewhat similar, at least from the first case, but he's not nearly as dumb. He seems more like a real judge. Yes, how did that snake get into this cabin? But animals are not permitted on board.
We are at sea for 1 year. You want to be so long without close friend? Without someone who understands?
Couldn't you find someone a little more human who understands you better? But my dear burly fellow, a gargantuan venomous snake? Surely you can appreciate the danger you're putting everyone in.
No venom. Pirosco does not have venom. He is harmless, very long, but very gentle. He is adorable like Granny.
It's venomless.
Yes, now he is hungry, so he is in bad mood. But once I feed him, you will see big smile.
And you feed him what? Milk, I suppose?
Like they say they milk chickens? Ridiculous. Snakes that drink milk are only in stupid stories. Pirosco eat mouses. Big fat round mouses.
Ah. Oh, so is that what the mousetrap in the passageway out there is for?
Of course. How else can I catch my friend's favorite food?
It's not venomous, but it is poisonous. Don't eat it. Nothing says top of the food chain like the look in their eyes right now. We actually had in the first case, someone was poisoned, and I made a comment about like the fact that not all poisons have the like something that's poisonous when when it hits the bloodstream isn't the same as something that's venomous when you eat it, or poisonous, I mean. And that actually came up like immediately.
It refuses to drink milk, it can't hear a whistle, it can't climb up a bell cord, and it's not even venomous.
How the deuce did something so inept land a starring role?
Is not my fault, I do not make up stories. My Pirosco has nothing to do with this incident.
So that's what happened. That's the truth behind my best friend's tragic death. The other things in the court record just won't ever be used. Ms. Pavlova, I understand the difficult situation you've found yourself in, and I do sympathize. But please remember this. We're not fucking stupid. He doesn't know Russian. How would he have written the Russian word for wardrobe on the floor, you idiot? A young man lost his life. If you're going to attempt to cover up your guilt with lies, then no matter what the circumstances, I cannot forgive you. But what are you talking about, Miss Mikotoba? What lies? Miss Pavlova just confessed everything. It was just a series of unfortunate events, an accident. I'm no great detective like Mr. Sholmes. I don't have a gift for knowing the truth. But even I can see that was not the truth. Don't you agree, Mr. Naruhodo? To be perfectly honest, yeah. There's a discrepancy in Ms. Pavlova's story, I'm sure of it. I just can't quite put my finger on it. I can confess. I was intending to let Scotland Yard deal with any outstanding issues on this matter. I am only present here for a very specific reason. The truth is, you, Mr. Naruhodo, are simply a distraction. A distraction? I do hope you've not been finding your shackles too uncomfortable. Ah, not again. When did he do that? Especially as they're on your wrists as a result of my intervention. I was rather hoping I could resolve matters before we made our next port call. You were, Mr. Sholmes? Yes, but I overlooked one important detail. The deceased young man was a very close companion of yours, was he not? Yes. Cosmo was my closest friend. I owed him my freedom, even. In that case, we must follow this to its conclusion. No further distractions. You must uncover the real truth here, Mr. Naruhodo. Yes, whatever that may be. The key to this is the discrepancy in Miss Pavlova's story. I'm sure if I can chase that down, maybe the truth will become clear. The truth about how you really died. About how that scene in your cabin really came to be. All right, I'll see what I can do. Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Naruhodo. So then, shall we begin? Yes. What we should ponder first is the victim who lost his life in a cabin that was bolted shut from the inside. Was this truly an unfortunate accident? Or was it in fact no accident at all? That is what we must establish in the first instance. But we've already established it, haven't we? The man tripped over the kitten that had climbed into his cabin via the ventilator. Tragic, yes, but still an accident. Hold it! Falcon, stop! Wait, let's just take a step back. Hopefully there is not a kitten behind us, because if there is, we will fall to our deaths. It doesn't make sense if that's really what happened, does it? I'm going to have to ask you to spell it out for me. I'm stupid. Yes, it's starting to take shape now. There's a clear contradiction between the facts and Miss Pavlova's story here. The evidence is right there in Cosmo's cabin. It's undeniable. His death couldn't possibly have been a mere accident. Really? Let us show our hand, Mr. Naruhodo. Time to present the evidence. The evidence that proves unequivocally that the victim... Now, I want to say it's this. Yeah. This should be. Right? I mean, the less a game is localized, the more actually no. Even the other Phoenix Wright games really enjoy doing the like Phoenix does the dots, prosecutor does the dots, witness does the dots, judge does the dots, and then we zoom out to the court and the spectators do the dots. And then somebody yells, "Hold it!" Dum, 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 dum. We do this a lot in Phoenix Wright. We certainly do. The truth is clearly recorded in this photographic print. There's no way Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. That script, it's Russian, isn't it? Indeed it is. The word written means wardrobe. I see what you mean. Most people would leave a dying message in their native language, Japanese, in this case. But maybe he was studying Russian. It is a simple language. He could have picked it up very fast. Doesn't seem likely. It's actually not the point. It makes no difference whether he knew Russian or not. Sorry? What do you mean? Exactly what I said before. There's no way that Mr. Asogi could have left this message on the floor. And the reason why is clearly explained in here. Damage to the cervical vertebrae, resulting in instant death. Instant death. Sokushi. Hop step hai sokushi. Ah. Which means, after the victim fell to the floor, he couldn't possibly have written anything. In the last seconds of my life. He's like, as he's falling, takes out the flashcards. Because he was already dead. That's not the only reason either. There's something else we found in Mr. Asugi's cabin. Was there? A remnant of something that couldn't possibly have been there, if what Ms. Pavlova told us was true. What? So Susadora-san has noticed it too. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. I mean, this is suspicious, but it's, it certainly doesn't prove that it's not an accident. Another. I guess I'm gonna try ship's law. I got plenty of life. Nobody's watching to see if I make a mistake. Let's present this.
Yes!
What point are you trying to make with that evidence? I'm starting to see how Kazuma's death really happened, I think. No, the log was not found in the cabin. I think that you're starting to see nothing of the sort, and that was the evidence to prove it. Ugh. If it was no accident, then what should we look for? Is only two things. Either the absence of something you would expect to find at the scene of an accident, or the presence of something you wouldn't. Most compendiously put, my dear madam. Ah, I see, he said, not seeing. I confess you're rather languid. I see doesn't fill me with confidence. Don't worry, I believe in you. Well, more than Mr. Sholmes does, anyway. It's starting to take shape now. Putting this message on the floor aside, there's something else that gives the truth away. Another piece of evidence that proves this was no accident. Is it? I mean, that could have already... No, that was already on... Hildebrand's spin-off games? They could. Yeah, in this style, they totally could. Oh, they should. Because somebody, whoever it was that I was watching, had said, like, while the MSQ for Final Fantasy XIV does, like, involve your character, even though you don't get to pick what happens, really, you know, in the process of, like, choosing the different answers that your character can give and little things like that, it's like you feel like your character's part of the story. And they're like, when it comes to the Hildebrand story, your character is clearly just the cameraman. They're not actually involved in it at all. They're just walking around witnessing the events that are happening. And so, yeah, you totally could take the player character out of those and make that its own style of game. It's not something that relies on the fact that you're in an MMO. That would be fun as a spin-off game. You're hired. Can you start tomorrow, Blind? There's nothing else in here besides that. Is there like a back to this picture? No. Like cat's eyes. No soul. So I tried the ship's log, it's not that. Oh yeah, it is fantastic. Well, we don't have that much. Oh, is it? No, it's not people. Oh, we can review. Oh no, that's just reviewing that scene. I don't. I'm gonna say it's the mark on the floor, even though I don't see how.
Yes!
This piece of broken glass next to the mark on the floor. Oh, because the other half is in her garbage, obviously. I'm dumb. But that's the glass bell the kitten had around its neck. We already know about that. It was broken in half when the victim tripped over the cat and fell. So we already have a satisfactory explanation. Where's the flaw in that logic? Unfortunately, there is a very big flaw. A fatal flaw. What? If that's really what happened, then how did one half of the bell end up back here in this cabin? Ah. Yes, remember that we found the other half of the glass bell in that wastepaper basket. Would you care to explain that, Ms. Pavlova? Oh no. Both these pieces of evidence clearly point to the same conclusion. That when Mr. Asogi died last night in his cabin, there was someone else in the room. And that same person deliberately arranged the scene to disguise the truth in order to cover up his or her own guilt. Kia! He's a hawk now. Yes, there was someone else present in Mr. Asogi's...
You are wasting time. Someone else was there? Duh, of course. We know this.
What are you talking about? Willis? Willis Stroganoff?
Bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. There was no way in or out.
Oh, yes.
And only other person in cabin when young students died was you.
Yes!
Yes! Falcon admission. It's true, I was in the cabin when it happened. You were shut inside the cabin wardrobe, to be precise about the details. But I don't know Russian. There's no way I would have left that message. Not would have. There's no way you could have left that message, to be precise about the details. You mind? You fucking mind, dude? Forgive me, my dear fellow. As I was saying, the person in question wrote the word wardrobe in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate me for the crime, even though I had been asleep in there the entire time. And then, the same person picked up the broken glass bell that had fallen to the floor for fear of it becoming evidence that would show how Mr. Asogi really died. But why wouldn't this person have taken all the pieces of the bell away? Leaving half behind was always going to raise questions. Yes, well, it was past 1 o'clock in the early hours of the morning. The cabin would have been quite dark. The single small lamp suspended from the ceiling would have barely cast any light onto the floor there. Objection. Regardless of the time of day, the level of light inside the cabin doesn't change because there's no windows to the outside. Little wonder, then, that the culprit failed to notice a fragment of the tiny item. You all suspect me, don't you? I just realized that why he has tan lines on his face. Because the snake wraps around him. I forgot that that his face looked like that until he took the snake off. Seaman Stroganoff.
Nina is woman of sea. She is daughter of strong sailor. 2 years ago, they noticed her dancing skills and she went away to join ballet company. But before she was dancer on this ship, member of ship's band. You do not accuse ship's angel of being criminal?
Ah, so that's it.
You say that when the young student died, Nina was there in his cabin. But that is not possible. I give my tooth.
Well, this is all most interesting. And why would you give your tooth, pray? How can you be so sure?
You are a great detective. You should know. Look truth in eyes. Cabin bulkhead was bolted shut from inside. Nobody could go into cabin. Not Nina, not anyone. Or you want to tell me that killer can walk through locked doors? Niet! It's impossible.
Ugh, he's right. But wait! I've read about this in detective stories. People often tie thread around We've been way over that. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me, lady?
Thread, are you stupid? Are you dumbkopf? These bulkheads are not barn doors.
Certainly not. These are watertight doors, as one would expect to find on any modern steamship. Constructed of heavy steel with not a gap in sight, as we have said many times in this chapter. No, of course not. I thought so too. But Mr. Naruhodo suggested it earlier, so... Susato-san, how could you shift it onto me like that? Wait a minute. Shift! Boat! That's it. The boat tipped. So, Seaman Stroganoff has a valid point. The cabin door couldn't have been bolted shut from the outside. Not necessarily.
What?
I put it to you that I could bolt this cabin door without laying a finger on it. And in this very cabin, we can see the traces of the method I have in mind having been used before. I don't believe it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I believe you know what I mean, don't you? A way to shut the bolt of the cabin door from the outside. I have to think carefully about this one. Yes, we know what he means, yes. And so should you. I'm ashamed of you. Because we've seen it happen. It was like 2 hours ago now, because of all of your dots. Indeed we have, so would you care to do the honors, Mr. Naruhodo? Point out the telling signs of the method. Okay. Shoo-ba-da-bam.
Yes!
Look at the bookcase there. It was a witch! Thank you for reminding me yet again that I need to go watch Umineko. See how all the books and things on it have toppled over? Which I don't think you were deliberately making an Umineko reference, but Umineko is a very long visual novel that is all about trying to prove that locked room mysteries were not the result of a witch. Like, that's the actual plot of the entire 120-hour-long game. That must have happened when the ship made its emergency stop before. Yes, that's right. It's a very powerful vessel, after all. When the engines are thrown into reverse, is that how you stop us? Are you sure? Are you sure that you just... everybody picks up the engine and, like, 180 degrees and drops it, and then it goes the other way? Or do you burn the fuel in reverse? You go, okay, fire turn into coal instead of the other way around, and that'll make us go backwards. When the engines are thrown into reverse. Alright. A violent jolt goes across the entire ship. Alright. Alright, that's what happens. You put a little pipe on the end that has like a U-shaped section so that instead of the flames shooting out that way, now they shoot out that way. Okay, I'm sure that's how it works. I'm sure that's nautically viable. Any small objects that aren't fastened down and are bound to fall over. I believe, yes, it's what's known as the force of inertia acting on the objects. Is there nothing Susato-san doesn't know? Or that isn't in her book, at least? Well, whatever it's called, it's the same force that pushed over those books on the bookcase. Also made something else in this cabin move. The bolt on the cabin door. Really? I thought maybe somebody suspended a wax statue that had a sword stabbed through it from the ceiling, and then they just spun it around a whole bunch of times before they ran out the door. That would make a lot more sense. It was very obvious just after the emergency stop that the ship made earlier. We had come into this cabin not long before, and we hadn't bolted the door. But then... Hello, is anyone in there? Shout if you need assistance. Okay, that sounds like the flashback to the scene we just saw. Oh yeah, that is an impressively bad locking mechanism. That's it. When the ship stopped suddenly, the bolt flew across and locked the door. Yes, it's made of metal, but it's small and light enough to be moved by the ship's sudden change of speed. Or the force of ineptia, if you want to call it that. Are you trying to say that last night, after Mr. Asugi was killed... That's like a 4-degree tilt. Come on. Come on. What's the static coefficient of friction on that? How low do you think that is? Come on. Do they grease this? Is it covered in... Is it made out of Teflon? When I woke up this morning and looked around the cabin, I thought it looked a little odd. All the books on the shelves had been toppled, and there was chicken on the floor. It was almost as if someone had run their hand across the shelves and deliberately knocked everything over. It's kind of like what my room actually looks like literally every single day. Also, every other room in my house, yes. And I stood them all up again, didn't I? Then when we came into this cabin, we were surprised to see the same thing in here. All the books and everything had toppled over, just like in Mr. Asuki's cabin. Yeah, the lock, the door, and the ship are all frictionless spheres. Makes perfect sense. Do you have anything to say about this, Ms. Pavlova?
Are you out of your mind? You say Burya made emergency stop?
It does seem a little far-fetched. How could that possibly have happened? Unless you're saying that the culprit is actually someone from the engine room. Oh, it is simple enough. Are you forgetting the button in the passageway outside used to trigger the emergency alarm? Oh yes, of course. Why does that exist? Why would it be necessary for someone down here in the first class passenger cabins to make the ship stop? There was a notice, wasn't there, telling you to only press the button in times of emergency. What emergency could happen in the passenger cabins that would necessitate stopping the ship on a dime, on a watery dime? Like who is sitting there at the engine like, uh-oh, somebody, I don't know, was freaking choking? Somebody had a heart attack? So we found someone was cheating on her husband. Oh, we better stop the ship in the middle of the ocean with our reverse boosters. On dark nights when the fog is dense, the captain cannot rely on the eyes of his lookout alone. Okay. It's a magic boat. Alright. It's a fantasy boat. It's a boat where we put buttons that stop the ship all over the ship. Everywhere. So that any crewman or cat can stop the ship if they need to. Alright. The sort of button one is almost compelled to press to satisfy one's curiosity. We put them everywhere, on every surface.
Wait, it was you?
When the button is pressed, two things happen in the interest of safety. The emergency alarm bell rings and the vessel comes to a complete stop. As indeed it did a little earlier today. Mr. Sholmes, surely it wasn't you who... As I always say, a button has but one purpose in life. To be pressed, whatever the occasion. He sounds almost proud of himself.
How dare you mess with ship? I report you to Captain. You are in much trouble now.
Now, I'm sure all that can wait until later. It's why the Titanic was able to stop before hitting that iceberg. Because somebody in the passenger cabins inside of a sarcophagus could tell that they were about to hit an iceberg. And they hit the handy stop the ship right here button that was on the inside of their entombed cabinet. Let us not overlook the fact that we have now learnt a valuable lesson. When the vessel makes an emergency stop, the bolts on all of the cabin doors slide closed. Every single one of them. And we've never noticed this, despite the fact that we emergency stop like 3 times a day at least, from people accidentally setting their cup down on an emergency button. There's an emergency button under their pillow that they hit when you go to sleep. So, what we must now consider... it's delightful. Yes, it all comes down to one thing now. Last night, after what happened to Mr. Asogi, did this ship make an emergency stop, or did it not?
You are idiots. Burya is huge ship with many passengers. Even if we make emergency stop, even in middle of night, there would be chaos everywhere.
What are your faults, Mr. Naruto? Carbon monoxide poisoning? Well, it's certainly possible that some kind of emergency happened last night. We have evidence to support that idea. Really? What evidence, Mr. Naruto?
Fascinating.
Do show us, my good man. What evidence promotes the theory that some emergency gripped this vessel last night? It's right here.
Yes!
Yes! Seaman Stroganoff. It's your duty to patrol the first-class area of the ship, isn't that right?
No, that is correct. Why?
And the ship's log here. This would be where you record the details of your duties.
What are you doing with that? That is mine.
You rather carelessly left it atop the little makeshift bureau in the passageway out there. But as responsible passengers, we took it into our care with a mind to return it to you later.
I left it there on purpose. That is where I put it always.
The point is, looking at what you usually record, it's clear that under normal circumstances you write the phrase "nothing to report" every 30 minutes. But from 2 o'clock last night until first light this morning, nothing was recorded at all. Nothing recorded in the log.
It is... because nothing happened.
But if nothing happened, you would normally write "nothing to report," wouldn't you?
Oh,
Gulps in Russian. Indeed so, which tells us that shortly after 2 a.m., something happened here aboard the SS Burya. Something sufficiently significant to make you forget to fill in the ship's log, in fact. Are you suggesting that the ship really did make an emergency stop in the middle of the night?
Stop talking Russian.
If I'm perfectly honest, I find that a little hard to believe myself. Oh? Why? Well, because if something as major as an emergency stop really had happened, surely all of us would have noticed. That's very true. Thanks to the emergency stop we experienced earlier, we all know what it feels like now. The ship lurched so violently, and the alarm bell was so loud. Did Zahando consume that entire... Or no, wait, he consumed space. Did King Crimson erase that period of time? I can't imagine that anybody would sleep through that, even if it happened in the dead of night. Well, no, that's a good point. What of the throbbing? Sorry? What do you mean? Your head, man. The throbbing of your head since this morning. We have all suffered with it. Ah! Oh, yes. I have had a headache. You're right. In fact, I haven't been feeling myself since I woke up. Is it actually going to be carbon monoxide? Because, I mean, I would deserve a lot of credit for guessing that so incredibly early on. Nor have I. My head has been feeling heavy ever since dawn. Yes, you've all been afflicted, haven't you? Just as I suspected. He's right. My head's been throbbing today, too. And since eating dinner yesterday evening, everything has felt sort of hazy. I can't really remember anything that happened after I climbed back inside the wardrobe. Then the first thing I noticed this morning was the throbbing pain in my head. I had already been dragged out of the wardrobe and had those handcuffs put on me by that point. Why didn't I wake up when all that was happening to me? Okay, no, maybe it's that everyone on board was drugged. Every episode is going to involve poison. Every case. Tell me, Mr. Naruhodo, you boarded this vessel as a stowaway, didn't you? Oh, well, yes, sorry. The stowaway class of accommodation doesn't usually include meals. What did you survive on? Oh, well, Kazuma looked after me. He was always happy to share his meals. They mentioned that Kazuma didn't like chicken, so he didn't eat the chicken. So is that why he was still awake? Was there some kind of, like, grand plan to, like, put everyone on the ship to sleep and then, like, kidnap her? Is that it? Did a Russian spy get on the ship to... Well, no, I guess it's gonna be Stroganov. Like, he poisoned every single person on the ship with sleeping pills or whatever, and then maybe they're in cahoots. Like, he was going to, like, run away with her. I don't know. So you enjoyed some of the whole roast chicken dish that was served yesterday evening, I take it? Yes. Yes! In fact, I had all of that. Cosmo wasn't fond of chicken. Really? So the victim didn't eat any of the chicken at all. That's right. He didn't touch it. Is that relevant? My dear fellow, does that not strike you? Oh, Mr. Sholmes, do you mean to say that there was something wrong with the chicken? I do. No! Really? Is that really true? The meal prepared for the passengers last night had been tampered with. Tampered with by the addition of a soporific, designed to induce a very deep slumber in those who consumed it. A sleeping drug? Do you mean whoever did this laced every meal with a sleeping drug so no one would notice the ship's emergency stop? Mr. Naruhodo, of course that's not what Mr. Sholmes means. What a far-fetched idea. Precisely. Lacing every meal of every passenger on board with a soporific drug would certainly be impossible. Unless, that is, every single member of the crew was a conspirator. What? Mr. Sholmes? Well, seaman? I'm sorry to say that any more deception in this matter will get you nowhere. If you refuse to talk, there would have to be an inquiry made through the shipping company, of course. that to happen, every member of the crew and the captain himself would be hauled over the coals. Nice, blind, nice. The airplane reference. For aiding and abetting a renegade. So was it the whole crew, or was it just him? Because, hold on. If they're like, we need to put all of the passengers to sleep so that they don't notice that we came to an emergency stop in the middle of the night. Because we can't stop slowly? Like, that seems so much easier to do. Please, no more. I will tell everything. I cannot make problems like this for everyone else anymore. These crewmen are your former comrades, I believe. Yes. So when I decided to run away, I asked them to help me.
We all agreed to help everyone together. She threw away everything, her fame in the ballet, Mother Russia. We wanted to help our angel.
I don't believe it.
You're right. We put sleeping drug in chicken last night.
This is so silly. Like, we needed to emergency stop without any of the passengers knowing, because that would have given away the fact that we had a secret Russian ballerina on board. So we poisoned everyone so that they would fall asleep, so that we could stop the ship quickly with our reverse thrusters in order to offload her somewhere, rather than just slowing down. Just slow down, that's all. Yes, I remember now. I did notice chewing on a lump of something strange and bitter at one point. They did a bad job of it, too. My God.
We could not make all drug. How do you say, dissolve?
Oh, talk about heavy seasoning.
At midnight, in waters near Shanghai, we brought our angel on board. She was helped by comrade on shore with small fishing boat.
Oh wait, so that was just to get her on board. Okay, I guess maybe I missed that part, but it's still ridiculous. You could just slow down. While all the passengers of the SS Boreas slept soundly, thanks to the almost magical effects of the slumber-inducing potion their evening meals had contained. So, if that's what happened, the only people awake on the ship last night were the crew, people who dislike chicken, and the newly boarded passenger, Ms. Pavlova. It was the Ruskies. And that means it would have been possible for you. You could have used the emergency stop trick to lock Kazuma's the whatever. But how does that make sense? It doesn't. Surely every cabin door would have ended up locked in the case, and there would have been complete chaos. Oh, I wouldn't say so. What? Oh, of course. Just like us, all the other passengers would have eaten their evening meal of chicken in their cabins, after which they would have been overwhelmed by tiredness because of the sleeping drug. Quite. And accordingly, all passengers were already in their cabins for the night. Okay, so what about the cabins that are facing the opposite direction? So that when the ship does an emergency stop, the lock slides open instead of closed, huh? How about that? How about them? How about them apples? How about them snake apples? The overwhelming majority of passengers would habitually sleep with their cabin doors bolted already. And so not one of them would have found it remarkable to find the door locked in the morning. In summary, in order to fasten the bolt of a single cabin door on the ship, the culprit brought the entire vessel to an emergency stop in the early hours in the morning. Oh, so this is assuming that she stopped the boat on purpose because she knew that it would cause the door to lock? That's gonna call for some exclamation points from everybody, and some dots from him.
You have talked long time and said many things. What is point?
The point is what I said earlier. There was somebody else present on the scene when the victim lost his life last night. Someone who left a message in Russian on the floor in an attempt to incriminate another. Someone who tried desperately to hide the broken fragments of glass that would reveal the culprit's identity. And someone who abused the ship's emergency stop procedure in order to lock a door. All told, a busy night. But... I don't know about any of this. I'm just a little girl.
You like to speak with your long English words and you explain your clever ideas. You should use long European words, like Donald Gesellschafts Kapitän. But I am sailor, and sailors don't listen to long, boring stories. We don't believe. Sailors like me, we trust only what we see with our eyes.
A laudable trait.
What?
I am quite of the same disposition, my good man. Observation to me is everything. Mr. Naruhodo. Oh, yes? Do you hear it? That accusatory cry of guilt on the wind? What accusatory cry of guilt? Sorry, you've lost me. Proof of involvement, man. But you can't hear such a call with your ears. No! You must hear it with your... Oh, I thought he was going to say with your heart. I guess we're not using the wrong anime. You must hear it with your eyes. For observation is the basis of all deduction.
What are you talking about?
I believe the time has come for one final logic and reasoning spectacular to expose the truth. Oh, are we doing it right now? I might save then. We might save this for later. I thought we were just going to, like, wrap up quick. Hear it with your liver. Believe in the heart eyes of the cards. Oh yeah, eyes was orange, so we have to correct him. He's like, you must hear it with your eyes. And then we'll zoom in on the ears instead and be like, no. So yeah, even though it's right at the climax, I don't want to keep the stream going too long. So I think we will actually save right here. We'll pick up on Saturday with some more Phoenix... I keep calling it Phoenix Wright. It's not. With more Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Right? The ear ring. It all comes back. Also, the earring might still... I don't... No, maybe it won't. Maybe it won't come into play. But maybe it will. We'll see. That is it for tonight. Thank you for coming by. I always enjoy the company. More of this on Saturday, and then Monday, and at some point I got a new game to mix in, Monsters Expedition. We'll see what happens with that. Have a good night, everybody.